mute it and then I can pause it. Aha! We are live.
Dun, dun, dun.
It says we're live. Yes. Okay. Good. I'm moving around on there. That's great. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to part 2.
Dos.
Dos. So we are back. Today is going to be recovering the bones. We are here on my side of the channel. That works.
Yes. It's so different over here.
It's so rainy. It's very rainy. And welcome back, everybody. And today we're going to be talking about recovering the bones. We're going to be talking about ancestral healing. We're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff. And it's me, if you hadn't noticed, Jerry Morris with Miss Cris Ashburn.
Oh, hello.
Who has pizza.
I do. I have a mini pizza. And we were going to start the live, and I took a big bite. And she's like, and we go live. I'm like, it's actually, it wouldn't be the first time that I've started a live with food in my mouth. So.
Mm-hmm. We nearly started the stream with me going, would you like to swallow? Just because I thought it might be fun. Yes, we've both got the red lip today. We're both rocking the red lip today. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. I should make you start after you made me start yesterday, but I guess I'll start.
Well, I gave you like a setup at least. You're just like, go.
Well,
have fun.
So yesterday we were talking about discovering the bones. So that was kind of your ancestors and discovering your ancestors and kind of what that process kind of looked like for us. And
mm-hmm.
We kind of went around the houses a little bit with it, and we got into some dark earth energies with Demeter and some singing over the bones and like storytelling and singing and things of that nature. So recovering the bones is a little bit more on the healing side of things, a little bit more on sorry, I just looked down and I can see Cris like
I'm muted. Shh, they don't need to know.
Oh, sorry.
No, I don't.
Just ignore that much. Just ignore. So yeah, so today is going to be sort of. I've got not jotted down opening chords to the songs of ancestry, kind of like the healing, the two-way healing, and recovering within our spiritual lives. So I'm going to make Cris do it with a mouthful of pizza. Go on, Cris. What does recovering the bones mean to Cris?
Well, see.
Hey, guys. Hi, everybody in chat.
Hello. Yeah, see? Now Noah wants pizza. I've started a revolution.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even that great. It's just something in my stomach right now. Okay, so what does recovering the bones mean to me? Well, recovering the bones means that you've found the pieces that stick to your structure, right? The bones themselves,
mm-hmm.
and now you are actually forming them into flesh, bringing them to life. So I think there's more of an action involved there. I think there's more of a healing process, and I think that it lends itself more to things like ritual and that sort of thing. When I think of ancestral healing, since you kind of like segued into that,
mm-hmm.
I think about the fact that to do that, you have to kind of be fully aware that you are the link in the chain. And that you are simultaneously... Joey's dropping things. She's making fun of me for eating, and she's over there throwing stuff.
I was recovering the book. Bones.
Yeah, but I think that with ancestral healing, once you are aware that your actions and your energy and everything is very intimately linked to the past and the future, I'll say in this way, because yesterday we had a whole timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly kind of conversation. Um, I think you're a lot more, one, invested in yourself and your own healing, because as you heal you heal them.
Mm-hmm.
And as they heal you, they heal them.
Mm.
So, the circle of life. Wait, my pizza is Simba.
The circle of cheese. I am indeed wearing the Jack Skeleton dress today.
I know, you guys. This dress is so awesome.
So we were talking a little bit about timey-wimey, mishy-mashy Doctor Who style time yesterday. And just to recap that for anybody who hasn't caught up and who was like 2 hours yesterday, I'll just tune in today and maybe I'll be okay today. So timey-wimey yesterday is that Cris was dealing out some information, like have some knowledge peeps.
I was excited. I got excited. I got so excited that I got out of breath.
She bounced. There was bouncing. There may be bouncing today. We might get back to bouncing. In that, talking about how if you believe in reincarnation, then what are you channeling as an ancestor? And Cris was saying in our fluxy way of thinking that you can be both and you can exist in many spaces energetically at the same time. So a part of you can be here and a part of you can be there. And I was sort of saying that I don't feel like time is a straight line. So I felt like that we could be reincarnated at any given point, and it isn't as linear as we perhaps consider it to be. So in terms of ancestor healing, that means that at any given point we're connected to any number of threads along the ecosystem, if you like, and any number of points, any number of energies, any number of people and parts of us that exist in different timey-wimey zones. And therefore the healing becomes even more important, because we're not only healing who we are right now, but we're healing like all out from that, like butterfly effect out from that, like all the many different energies and all the many different times and all the many different parallel universes, even all of like mine. It gets a bit kind of abstract, and I'm like, how do I put this in language? But we kind of like healing outwards from ourselves.
So a thought that I had after our conversation yesterday, and I was like, oh, I should tell Joey that, I should message her right now. And then I was like, no, hold it for tomorrow. And so I've held this with me, and I feel the need to tell you that when you explained the ecosystem yesterday, which go ahead and explain it for them if you want, like what you were seeing. Because I don't know if they saw that.
So the ecosystem to me was kind of like envisioning, like if you're at one point of a route and then you're connected to all these other routes throughout time and throughout space, and then there was kind of like a pulsing energy passing through, and it was kind of seeing the light of the energy in different threads and different strands and pulsing in different places is kind of what I was talking about yesterday.
That's our brain.
Neurons firing. Oh, I like it. Oh, I like
it. Away from it, and I was like, oh, duh. But yeah, that's our brain. That's the neurons and the pathways and the
But like on a spiritual, yeah.
Oh, like Holy Mother Amygdala. No.
Sideways. Yeah, that was also part of yesterday. And following, I posted yesterday about never going backwards, and Cris was there like, early sideways.
Shut up.
Yeah. But if we think about it into those sort of terms, it's kind of like this unending cycle that we were talking about yesterday. And it's like there are times of death, and there are times of life and times of rebirth. And in that ecosystem, it's kind of like we are simultaneously all of them at any given point.
Everything and nothing. Welcome to the Flux.
Welcome to Flux Radio. We are your hosts, live from the underworld. No, not really. It's England, but it might as well be. You know,
The other world. That's what it would be.
the other world, down in the Shire, down at the bottom of the garden. Anyway, points for anyone who understands that song. That's a childhood song. I'll wait. I bet nobody understands that song. Everyone's like, what? No, nobody understands what nonsense I'm going on about. I'll sit here and cry. Right, okay. That was Poddington Peas, but there you go. Yes! Yes!
Magpie knew.
Magpie knew. The Poddington Peas. I bet you're glad you made it, Nathan. We're singing about Poddington Peas.
There's so many cats happening. A lot of little people.
I love Magpie. She knows.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, okay.
I love that there's so many people in chat right now, too. Like, that's awesome.
Okay, I will go back to being serious then, seeing as Nathan's skipping class.
Do we have to? Because childhood songs. No. All right. Yes, let's do this.
It all makes sense. Back. Don't giggle at me. I won't be able to refocus.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me be thoroughly serious.
We're back to the emo space, right? Okay.
Let's talk about existentialism.
Oh, okay. So we're talking about ourselves as ecosystem and ourselves as existing in multiple spaces, multiple time, that there are parts of our energy that exist in the past, inverted commas, in the future, inverted commas, from this point that we are realizing reality through right now. Because I honestly feel like we may well go back and reincarnate in terms of back compared to where we are now. We may well go forward. And it was interesting. I was thinking about this after we talked last night. I was like, I wonder whether or not people who have written science fiction are actually having like echoes of like past lives where they've gone forward and then come back, and then they've having like echoes of what the world will be like. And so they've written it, and then because it already exists within cultural references, then it sort of becomes into being. So it's kind of like a loop. So I was having that thought last night.
I know some people who write that feel like that, definitely. I mean, like, no one knows for sure, but it's one of those things. But I know people that definitely feel like that. Oh, what? I was able to do a little ancestry work yesterday and was receiving messages that family did not connect with me for fear I was going to die. So I was going 3 pounds, 2 ounces. Wow. That's some powerful shit, as I put so eloquently.
And thank you to Gothic Arcana for complimenting our
Gothic and Mystic. No, I got on here and she had that lipstick again, and I was like, this bitch. I gotta go get some wolf's mouth. I need to put that shit on.
What she means is I totally inspired her to put her red lip on. She doesn't mean this bitch at all.
Yeah, it's just funnier to make it bitchy.
We're all crazy here. We go from deathly serious to singing about the Poddington Peas in 5 seconds.
Yeah, it's kind of like trying to have a serious philosophical conversation with the Mad Hatter. It's just not going to happen. Not all the time, anyway.
But you do get incredibly deep, meaningful insights, and then you get nonsense, and it's up to you to decide which is which. You know. But yeah, I was having this thought yesterday about like maybe people have already kind of glimpsed those futures or possible futures or possible like other universes perhaps, and that then echoes through the Yes,
The
sideways.
ether.
That then echoes through like writing and culture, and that helps bring it into being almost. So there's kind of like this cyclic nature of things, like people who have come back to help the future be what they have kind of like a little memory of it being. So it all got very timey-wimey in my head last night. I was like, but
well, even even reincarnation stuff itself. I was talking to Dawn yesterday, and I was talking about how I always say that the land that we walk on is our ancestors, and like that's all fine and good for a sentence, but people don't always understand the extent of what I mean by that. And what I mean is that the bodies degraded and created that soil. That soil helped create trees. Those trees help us breathe. Like the circle of life, like it's in
everything.
everything.
Mm.
The land filters water, and you know what I mean? Like it. So, in that essence, like we are still living off the people who were living.
Mm.
And that is another like echo that's happening, even just in this like this straight line of time that we're thinking. So just imagine how many like instances of spirals and circles that we have going on elsewhere. Yeah, the grand infinity. We're through the looking glass.
I was talking a little bit about this on my blog post a little while ago, about us all being interconnected and there not being separation. There not being. Are you okay?
Yeah, I got excited about a question. Sorry.
I saw you look over and I was like, okay, 1 second.
I was like, oh, wait, she's talking. Shut up. Yes.
I was just going to say, I was talking about this, about there being no separation and it being an ecosystem, and about, and that being, you know, we as human beings right now often see ourselves as separate from the world around us, from different forms of life. And I feel like all life is interconnected, with it being plants and trees and animals. It's all life interconnectedness. So
yeah, I think, sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Oh. I was gonna say, I think that we are very connected. I wouldn't say that lets us lose our individuality. Like,
no,
we're still separate, but we connect a lot deeper than people think.
I see it like we are all cogs in the machine, if you like. This is a horrible way of analysis, but bear
You're
with
calling me a cog. Yes, go on.
All in all, you're just a... Anyway. Welcome to our chat. But every part in this grand machine has a very important part to play, and that's the individuality. But they all interconnects with one another, and that's the interconnectedness. So it's possible to be yourself and to be interconnected at the same time. That's kind of how I see it.
I'm smiling because when you said be yourself, I saw Genie from Aladdin going, be yourself.
Okay, let's
go. Samantha fills my mug. Thank you. I love this mug. For those who will be watching this later, Magpie is awesome. And she said, we don't need no education. Yes, you do. You just used a double negative.
Okay, so Nathan's question, if I read it and you answer it, seeing as you were excited, with past lives and honoring past life regression, is it feasible to say by honoring our ancestors in that way, we also honor our divine selves?
Yes.
That's it. Well, that was easy.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think that we repeat and touch on ourselves as well. Touch on ourselves. That's a whole other video.
Is it though? Is it?
And after yesterday, I don't know.
I put my corset on and everything today. Jeez.
I know. You're like, let's get ready. Let's go into battle. Yeah, no, let's see. So past lives and past life regression, is it feasible to say by honoring our ancestors in that way we also honor our divine self? Yeah, because I mean they're part of it. And we are part of them, and the divine is part of us and all things.
So the way that I was thinking of it, if you take that ecosystem that we talked about, and there was, you know, our energy moves through this ecosystem and we see flashes of our energy and light at different points along the path, along the routes, then to me, the root structure would be deity. So deity is within us at all points, and we are within deity at all points. And deity is all around us, but also kind of within us at the same point. So I feel like, yes, you can absolutely honor the relationship that and symbiosis again that you have with deity by healing yourself, by healing your ancestors, because I've never felt that deity was completely like apart from us. And it's one of the reasons that I looked into paganism in the very early stages as kind of like defining what my spirituality was, if you like. It had always been with me, but I was looking for structure at that point, and only to get to this point where it's like no structure, everything fluxy. So for me, yeah, it absolutely does honor that bond, honor that relationship by working with healing and like recovering the bones, like we talked about, like healing at us and healing our ancestors and healing us at different points along the timeline, along the root system.
Think of how fundamental it is to, I mean, okay, so a house, let's just go with this analogy. People are houses, the end. No. So
all in all, you're just
a whole house, right? And if you let the foundation lack, maybe there is a beam underneath the house that the termites have been eating, and it is weaker than all the others, and the house is starting to kind of sag a little, and you realize that, and you let it go, that's going to affect the house you live in, right? Because that's, I mean, it's going to affect your walls. Everything's going to shift. Like anyone who lives in an old house knows, like you get cracks in your ceiling and all kinds of stuff because the entire house shifts from one peg essentially. But yet if you pay attention to the foundation underneath, if you give it love and you give it care and you treat it, and if you see that one is going down, you maybe like pull in some support for it and things like that, your house stays good. And so it's like, yeah, your roots are important. So it makes sense that in trying to heal those, you heal yourself, you benefit yourself as well.
So Susie asked, and I was kind of going to talk about something a little bit along this line as well. So what are your thoughts on cell memory? Do you think the remembering of a past life, that it could be, in fact, a memory of ancestors? So I was going to talk about the fact that in terms of healing, sometimes when we get into, say, shadow work with healing, there are things that trigger us in certain ways that we can't necessarily explain. And I think phobias is a really good one, because some of us have phobias and we're not entirely sure where these phobias have originated from. Like we can't pinpoint why we are so, in my case, deathly afraid of heights. And I honestly, and there's something else that happens to me as well, is that I can't have necklaces tight up around my neck. And I feel like that at some point in a past life or one of my ancestors, there's a connection with being hung around the neck until dead. And because of that, I have this like skin cell memory right now where I can't wear like chokers tight around my neck because it makes me feel very ill. And I can't have things pressed against my temples very long because that will bring on severe headache. And so to me, that feels like there is cell memory there that may go beyond this lifetime, because yes, there are going to be physical factors. I have a genetic defect, if you like, proneness to migraines that's in my genetics. But then again, you can still argue that genetics are genetic code. They are ancestor working through you. And there are things which are a little bit more abstract as to why that might be, and that might well be a past life or an ancestor's experiences. I'm going to say with all of this, we can't be like, yes, this is because we are talking about ideas which we were just kind of like piercing the veil with it. We're shooting in the dark, basically. We're just saying what we think makes sense, what makes logical sense, what makes spiritual sense, what makes emotional sense to us. Because none of us can know for certain, because that's
right.
just the
and
nature
that's
of it.
really the bottom line of spirituality in general, is like, no one freaking knows. Figure out what makes sense to you. But let's see. So what are your thoughts on soul memory? Do you think the remembering of a past life,
that's the one,
the fact, a memory of our ancestors? Sorry, my husband's up.
It's ghosts, it's spirits in the house. You should have been like, it's my ancestors.
I heard the memory of my ancestors. Yeah, I think I have a theory that it's in our blood anyway. I mean, you look to, there's several different cultures that look to gifts and things like that being handed down. And I'm not getting into the whole like born real witch bullshit, but saying like there are like just innate things that people like pick up and they just, and a lot of different cultures explain that as one of their ancestors basically either being reincarnated into their body, or them having like the spirit of them with them, or like, and a lot of people think that's like a side thing, like a spirit guide, but some of them actually believe that it's actually merged with their spirit. So like there's two existing in one, essentially. And to me, that's like a spiritual way to say that our genetic memory is with them. And so that just kind of, I mean, even testing your DNA and stuff, I can get one and then my sister could get one. And if we have the same parents, hers comes out different than mine. Your DNA pulls differently for each person. And so, does that mean that what she has, I don't, and vice versa? Not necessarily, like culturally, but blood-wise, yeah. So with that in mind, that makes sense that we would pull a certain way with the culmination of our ancestors. Pull is even the right word, because in terms of time and future and past, like maybe they're just coexisting in part of the web. If you pull on one string, they all move.
What do you think is the reason most of us forget our memories of past reincarnations? I am going to say for Samantha, for witchy book recommendations, I have 2 videos on my channel, on this channel already. I'm assuming Cris has got book recommendations somewhere.
I don't really recommend witchy books. I'm going to be really honest.
Oh, okay.
When people ask me for no, when people ask me for books, I usually recommend to them like native books or philosophy stuff, or like things on Tao, which I love. Women Who Run with the Wolves is an amazing book. I would recommend that one.
Hang on, I've got another one here, and then I will let you go in your own time and see.
Yeah. Oh, I haven't read that yet. You need to let me know how that is.
It's so good so far. I'm about halfway through. But other than that, there are some videos on my channel for straight on witchy books. Okay, yes. So why do you think the reason that most of us forget our memories of past reincarnations?
Well,
trauma.
I think, yeah, it's being put into a body or pulled out of a body as a death midwife is not an easy necessarily fun thing if it's traumatic, especially.
Mm-hmm.
Like where, you know, the timing doesn't line up.
Mm.
Uh, so like part of my job as a death midwife is when someone is dying to help ease that transition. And what that means is, spiritually at least, when their body is ready to let them go and their spirit is at ease with that, they're not fighting the flow of it,
Mm.
um, then things time up really well
Mm.
and they kind of just sync together. When they don't and there's a fight, it can be really traumatic and it can be very jarring. And it's kind of like, you know, in a car crash when you have like the temporary amnesia and stuff, like
Mm.
it screws your world up. And I think that babies being born are the same way. Some of them are very fluid, and some of them retain memories. I mean, you can ask a child every now and then; they'll be able to just like tell you about their life like it's nothing.
Mm.
But then there's also those that go through a really rough birth. Um, and I mean, there's even stories of, you know, they would close the woman's legs to be like, nope, doctor's not here yet. Just keep that in. Just
Mm.
we're gonna wait. And it's like, no, at that time is when that spirit is like fully merging into the world outside of this womb space that it's been so used to. And like that's like information overload.
Mm.
You know? It's information overload. It's like opening a door to a party and then everybody's surrounding you.
Well,
You know?
that's one of my main thoughts about this. Is I have twofold of thoughts. Firstly, there is an element that you have to forget in order to live this lifetime and focus on this lifetime that you're doing. Because if you had all these memories of your past lives and all these feelings, now imagine if you had found the love of your life in your past life and you had loved them deeply and you had died young. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine having that memory going forward in this life and being able to form relationships? This is just one example. And or feeling closely bonded to your family members if you were closely bonded to your family members in a previous life. Yeah. It's by allowing you to really engage in this life, it stops you from echoing a past life. So it allows you to engage or be given the opportunity to engage with the lessons of this life fully.
I explain that a little bit like you ever watch a series, right? And they do the recap thing. And they, of course, don't show the entire series to recap it. They only show the things in the story that are pertinent to what's going on in this episode when they recap. So it's kind of like that for me. Is like sometimes you can remember a few of them, not all of them. And when you do, it's only the ones that are pertinent to a lesson that you need to learn in this life. Because I feel like if we knew them all, it'd just be, again, information overload.
And I think as well that we're taught to forget, because a lot of us as children are more open to that, and we do remember perhaps more easily, more readily. And then as kids, a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us are taught like that's you imagining, that's you making it up, that's you lying, that's you you know, it's not true. And because you as a kid you're like, okay, well, my parent or whomever told me it's not true, so it's not true, and then I just let go of it. I forget. I no longer hold on to that information until maybe we get like further down the line, and then we're like, well, maybe I should have held on to that information, and now I can't remember it quite as well as I could, and maybe I need like regression in order to remember it. So I think there is a culture of refusing to permit people to remember their ancestors, their previous lives, their reincarnations. And that's why we have to go back and heal it at a later point, because there's rejection in the beginning, not necessarily because we wanted to, but because we were kind of taught that was kind of what we should be doing.
Yeah, that was the other half of my thoughts too when this popped in. The chat is kind of like, you know, well, we're also, you know, nature and nurture on that one. because we're also taught to kind of push it down, or you're just making things up, or don't be a liar, you know?
So Feathered Theron asked, I grew up with rabbits and with a rabbit family that still goes on today, and I kind of a part of my family. When I say ancestors, I also mean, do people... Okay, question. I grew up with rabbits and with a rabbit family that still goes on today, and kind of part of my family. When I say ancestors, also mean them. Do you mean as in like
he considers the rabbits his ancestors as well? That's what I'm gathering.
Like
sorry,
cross species reincarnation, is that what we're touching at?
Yeah.
Well, I've always been in two minds about cross species. I mean, I'm not going to say yes or no either way, because I don't know, and I'm sure it's, if we are all interconnected and life is all interconnected as I believe it to be, then there's no reason why we couldn't reincarnate as different creatures in order to fulfill elements of our souls for better understanding. And that's perhaps why many of us are so attracted to things like spirit animals and what our totem animal is and things like that, because energies of animals carry with us. And there is a, I think because there was a much closer bond between people and creatures than there is now, because of the kind of like the sterilization thing that's happened with humanity, at least in the West largely, that we don't know where animals come from, and we don't know where our food comes from, and it's just packaged and put in front of us, and that sort of thing. It's a whole other soapbox.
You mean like this pizza I'm eating?
I don't know what you mean. Well, it's like the fact that I have bottled water because the water around here is too lime scaly to drink.
I don't drink the water here either.
Because
algae scares, and they say it's fine to drink, but it all smells a lot like chlorine. So I won't drink it.
How do you feel about animals?
Mystic Witch, man, you keep retracting your messages. What's happening there? What's happening? Let's see.
Are you not answering cross speciesism?
Oh, do we? Oh, yeah. I was trying to remember what it was. I was trying to find it. So they are our ancestors, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, if we look at evolution, if we look at what we all evolved from, it's all just a big root that's branching off from each other. Like, I mean, it might be a series of a few roots, but very few compared to the many, 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 many lives that we have here. Actually, in my ancestry course, I talk about that. Like, I start right off with, like, what is an ancestor? Go. Because it can go a lot more involved and deeper. And you can be literal as in a person, or you can look at it like, this tree is my ancestor. Because if you go back far enough, we evolved from it. And ancestor just means, what is it, antecedere, which is like go before. So those who've gone before, period.
Nathan asks, is it vital to access or to try and access and connect with our past lives?
Vital. That's the key word, isn't it? Is it vital to?
I would say it's not vital. It's not going to stop you living, breathing spirituality, but it's always worth an investigate.
Yeah.
Is how I see it. We talked yesterday about how we sometimes put roadblocks, particularly me. Like, I had roadblocks because I had this wound, which is kind of what we're talking about today, is healing the wounds with ancestry. In terms of, I couldn't connect with my ancestors in my head because I couldn't connect with my immediate family because there was estrangement, and that was not going to change. The estrangement is not going to change for reasons of my own. So I felt like I couldn't then connect back to the spirit ancestors that existed beyond the veil. And I said yesterday, what I was doing was making a boulder out of a rock I could step over, because I was thinking like, oh, I haven't got access to the immediate family tree. I haven't got access to photographs, so I can't visualize them in my head. I can't work with them. And that was just not the case. And eventually it was literally full on spirituality. It was meditations. It was talking to Cris. It was discovery, divination, and moving beyond this I can't because mentality. So if I would never say if something feels uncomfortable to you that you must do it, like if you really don't want to. But
I also think that there's a certain level of fear facing that is definitely healthy.
So I hope that answers that.
Apparently Mystic's messages were coming through garbled, that's why.
Oh, okay. I can't get too close to fire or flames. I did a past life meditation with several others, and it turns out I was burnt alive at one point, which makes sense. Yeah, so I have the thing with the neck. A couple of people have been saying with the...
I walked off a cliff.
Oh, I know this story.
I was trying to help a spirit.
In a past life.
Yes, obviously. You know, I walked off a cliff. I got better.
She turned me into a new. What? I got better.
But I lost grip on which realm I was in, and just kind of over. So now I have to be very mindful in this life of walking that balance, and one foot in, one foot out.
I've just gotten to Michael, and apparently I've been finishing his thoughts. The experiences and situations from previous lives were to promote the lessons to be learned then, not now. Yeah. While they are part of the totality of our soul, those things are not meant for us to be experienced in this lifetime. Yeah, I think because how linear we often are in terms of being human, we are naturally drawn to kind of try and structure, analyze, and put things in boxes and say that it's linear and, oh, this is where I am, this is where I'm going, this is where I was. And we are encouraged in a lot of ways to be like that. I think a lot of us in the pagan past come to a point of rejecting it, because then we start to get into cyclic thinking of like the seasons, the wheel of the year, thinking of a season of life, death, and rebirth within every day. And we slowly approach rejecting a more linear point until we get to the point where I'm at, where I'm like, it's all fluxy. I refuse to believe it. It's the way that I've been taught. Yeah.
Well, that's like the flower of life thing I was talking about yesterday. And all the different circles and structures within the circles and structures. I was being told by my sister I needed to run and they'd kill me, and we were hugging and saying our goodbyes, and we were dressed like fashionable prairie girls. Fashionable ones, though. At least you were fashionable, sweet Susie.
I saw the ghost of my aunt's cat just after we watched him die. He was the only ghost I have ever witnessed on this plane. I felt of him as a guardian energy. So I have seen spirits my entire life. I don't know whether I mentioned this yesterday or not. I don't think I did.
I don't think you did.
So seeing spirits and ghosts is like one of my natural abilities that I was born with, that just always happened to me. And as a child growing up in a not very pleasant environment, this was not always a nice thing to have happen to you. It was not a pleasant experience sometimes. And I kind of like clamped down on it. But in relevance to the comment there about the ghost of the cat, is that I had seen spirits of cats more often than possibly even human spirits. And I feel like, you know how we have this rich tradition of cats being half in, half out, which is a...
all I could think was, well, they've got 9 lives, man. They're going to run away for the next one.
And they're guardians of the dead in the Egyptian pantheon. They're very associated with death there. They have the 9 lives thing. They have, they're half in, half out anyway, is the Constantine quote. They've always been associated with witches and magical beings. They are considered, you know, spiritual beings. And I have seen spirits of animals leave. And even my mother had seen a spirit of a cat come home, because he was called Monty, and he was a pure white cat, and he disappeared one day and didn't come home. And she said that she knew that he died. She just felt it. Like
no, I know what happened.
In her heart, she felt that he had died. And then one day she opened the back door and she saw the ghost of Monty come home and just disappear. And
he had found the Holy Grail. Okay.
And we had a cat called Lester much later in life, who had been with us all the way through growing up, and he in the end had to be put down very late in life because he had a tumor. And I saw him run up the stairs and disappear. So cats as spirits is something that I've seen a lot of.
I've seen a lot of dogs. My family has always had dogs. We had a lot of animals growing up anyway, but there's one dog especially. When my father was dying in the hospital, our family dog that had been dead, came to take him. And because I was sitting in the chair and I like felt them go, you know, to the side of you, how you just like feel them walk past, like, you know, hi. And I felt it, and I reached down to pet them without even thinking. Like, I knew who it was. I reached down to pet, and then I realized, like, you're in a hospital, dude. It's a hospital. They're not physical. What are you petting?
It's interesting that you did that, though, because you kind of told yourself off for a natural reaction.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, because it was mainly because I had a lot of other family there, too. And I'm just like, tell me more about the fact that I'm petting the air. I'm totally fine. I'm dealing with this. You know, it's not very reassuring to other people. But no, the dog came and I knew why she was there. My dad was attached to her at the hip, basically. And I'll hear her bark too, like whenever I go home, which is like 500 miles away. Whenever I go back home, I'll be in the house and I'll hear her bark. My mom hears it all the time too.
There is an element of healing, I think, because that is very strongly attached to the animal bond. And I think perhaps because the bond that we have with our pets, for want of a better word, is perhaps more pure in some ways, because critters tend to just be loving for the most part, and we tend to just have, hopefully, a beautiful relationship with our animals. I mean, we are obviously not talking about people who mistreated their animals and so on and so forth. We're talking about a real family bond, and that bond is just so simple, and there's no like bad memories other than perhaps the loss, that maybe it just makes it easier for us to be receptive to the energy that comes through once they've passed through the cycle of we're not resistant to it. And perhaps we even yearn for it a little bit more than we do with human interactions, because there is this kind of tendency to fear spirits when they're human form. But I don't think I've ever heard of people being deeply deathly afraid of like feeling the presence of their cat or feeling the presence of their dog or anything like that. Even within like the stories we tell, it's not usually like the screaming wailing banshee in the cupboard turned out to be a cat. Oh no, how terrifying.
Like, surprise, it's Kudo.
So I think there is something within the animal side of spirit work and spirit ancestors in a way that is perhaps one of the easiest ways to heal.
Oh yeah. Well, that just reminds me of how when people die, and we've had this conversation a lot lately, Joey, when people die, there's a tendency to want to make saints of humans. And maybe that's us trying to find that sort of thing with them, to try and like make the healing easier for ourselves. But I don't know that it really works.
I don't think it works with humans because it kind of takes the truth away. With animals, that is the truth, that they were just, our dog was loving and we loved them and they made our lives better, and that was it. That's the relationship. But with human beings, it's much more complicated than that for all kinds of reasons, because it's a different kind of interaction. So does make me wonder about either past lives of my entry into this one. I can't stand anything around my neck, born with a cord wrapped around it. I'm deathly afraid of throwing up. So much that I wish I hadn't thrown up in almost 30 years. I hate throwing up. It's like the most revolting experience. My whole body gets involved. It's not just being sick. It's like I can feel it from my toes. Too much information for the live stream, but yeah, just because you said so. But it does make you wonder if that's from a past life or entry into this one, or indeed both. Who's to say that your exit from a particular life wasn't around the neck from a different point in time, and then that echoed into birth?
Yeah.
I was born with my intestines or something around that area the wrong way, inside out. And they thought I was going to die. And they were all panicking. I was the first child, bear in mind, so they were really panicking. And they just righted themselves. And the doctors were like, couldn't explain what on earth had gone on. It just righted itself. So maybe that's past life.
I was born with, I was going to be a vaginal birth, but the umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck. And as she was trying to birth me, it was choking me. And so, like, they lost me for a little bit. And then they ended up having to do, like, an emergency C-section and take me out that way. So, like, I came swinging into life.
I was C-section as well. I was the wrong way around, though. Breech birth.
Huh.
I was breech birth, which some people say is a spiritual thing. Like being a breech birth is a spiritual thing.
Also, being born with a cull, like the veil, the amniotic sac over your face. Yeah.
But it does make you wonder whether or not, like, if I was born with my insides the wrong way, right, like maybe in my past life I'd been gutted. And it was like maybe an echo from death that then righted itself. And people who've been born with like umbilical cords like around their neck, is that an echo from a previous life? It's just, is it something carrying across the death barrier maybe? I was born spine to spine. I was born from pain. Okay.
Magpie's always chipper.
I have read that something about I can't remember if it's supposed to be, if it's like indigo kids or something along those lines that are supposed to be breech births. That's supposed to be the wrong way around. There's one of those.
Yeah, indigo or crystal, something like that. Yeah, and that was a whole thing when I was younger. My mom loved to talk about that topic. And what I find, honestly, is that, like, because people have asked me, they're like, so would you consider yourself an indigo? And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, but I'm a lot of things, because I feel like that's just one term of many for essentially the same thing.
Well, when you get into kind of like ancestry work, it's kind of like, well, what does it matter? That's kind of like one of those spiritual terms that I think people throw out because they want to be part of a club, also want to be a special individual.
Yeah. Well, it's a label. It's a label, and it's easy to have the label, but like, I think that it's just another word that we've put on essentially the same thing that we talk about in other social circles and in other cultures, and like everybody's got different words for the same shit. Like, and for me, you know, like old soul, indigo. All right, well, those are two different chains of thought, and yet they have a lot of the similar, you know, a lot of similar characteristics when they're noted. And I think it's essentially the same thing.
What do we mean by indigo? Because we've confused somebody in chat.
Oh, okay. So, gosh. So basically, there are these waves of souls born here. That's the theory that, and there are a lot of different ones, but the indigos are essentially like the warriors. They are the ones that were sent here to, as I like to say, beat down the walls, challenge the rules. They're the kids that if you're like, because I said so, they will not accept that as an answer. You have to explain why to them for them to get, you know, to get on with it. And even then, if they don't agree with it, they're not going to do it. They are intuitive. They're described as very headstrong. Whereas, like, you have the crystal children, who are another wave that is said to come like after them. That is more here to heal. They are more here to walk the path after the indigos have ripped a path through the jungle, if you will, and pick up those pieces of the leaves and build a home. I guess if you were to put it in metaphor, which I do because I speak in constant metaphor, if you guys haven't noticed. So
building a house, working in an
yeah, exactly. Yeah. The foundation. Yeah, yesterday it was farming, today it's housing. But yeah, so there's a theory that it's like waves of old souls, essentially, or waves of you could go into like the starseed thing. So starseeds are supposedly like souls that lived out in the planets, out in the universe, and have chosen to incarnate here on Earth. But yeah, there's a lot more on that, but that's like a very brief kind of description.
So I had a thought. Susie said I was born choking. I was blue and choking on fluid and wasn't able to breathe. And her mum couldn't see her for 24 hours. So I had two thoughts about this. My first thought was maybe that the death before that point was something to do with drowning. And maybe that echoed through.
Right.
But my following thought was, if that is a possibility, that kind of a death or a trauma echoes through into our birth and then goes through, is it then possible that we carry that echo of death, very much like Demeter and Persephone yesterday, into our lives, and it becomes part of the shadow that we need to deal with in this life? And I was thinking about this in terms of like ancestral healing, which is what we've kind of been talking about today. We've kind of gone on a bit of a tangent, but if then by me being born the wrong way and I would had to be a C-section, and my insides to this day I struggle with like my digestive tract. Like it's super crazy sensitive. My sister's is the same, and like I have like intolerances to certain foods, and that's something which physically has is possibly a manifestation of that. I mean, my mother put all sorts of tripe on on me about being born C-section and all the rest of it. So there's kind of like a guilt thing that comes from that. So I wonder whether or not like echoes of our past lives that follow through death, if that little bit of death follows us through and takes part in the birth in some way, then that is something that we have to work on as part of the healing process because of that thread that has carried through into this life.
I mean, like, I'm down with that train of thought. That's a new one to explore. I don't know. I mean, it makes it sound like death is something to be healed, and I don't think it's death that is. I think it's...
it'd be the trauma.
Yeah, the trauma specifically. So, of course, I want to make that distinction off the bat. But, yeah, I definitely think that there's an exchange. Like, for anyone who wasn't here yesterday, we talked about how when death happens and a person dies, a piece of that death stays with us because there's always an energy exchange to some extent. And you can see that in the story of Demeter, Persephone, and Hades. Demeter mourned. She was pissed off. She was resentful, and she's like, you bring my daughter back. And in turn, the land essentially died. And it was almost like a balancing act. It wasn't almost, it was a balancing act. And so that's an interesting thought, that maybe we're just trying to balance it all.
There you go. That's how you've just had a look into my thought process, that I've suddenly have a feeling and a thought about something, and maybe this is the case. Maybe this is the case.
Also, for anyone interested in the Indigo children, Michael suggests The Indigo Children, The New Kids Have Arrived by Lee Carroll.
I never felt connected to ancestors, having not known many of the elders in my family. Months ago, names Ruth and Josephine came through, synchronistic symbols, found out they are great aunts. So I kind of talked a bit about this yesterday and a little bit earlier in the feed, that I have no immediate connection to bloodline family, and that kind of prevented me from working with healing with my ancestors. And that kind of really put a block on me that needed healing, and then put a block on my ancestors that they needed healing, because they felt that breach. They felt that abandonment in a way. They felt that loss of connection. And it was something that I needed to, and continually need to, reconnect and heal. And the healing process goes both ways. And I did a whole very in-depth ritual that I'm not going to share the details of it, but there was this whole outside inside ritual that started off outside, and like I came inside and continued it, and continued it a little bit since. And I think that was an important part of rediscovering elements of myself, recovering the bones. So I think it's important not to say, well, I don't know my family, or I don't want to know my family, so I want to cut
or I never got the chance to, because that would be mine as well. I don't know who it was. It was Spiritual Eclectic. Because I didn't get to know a lot of my elders. There were elders in my family that had a lot of amazing knowledge, from what I hear and from what now I know, that I thought that I would never get to know them. And then they showed up one day, spirit wise. So if Ruth and Josephine are coming up, have fun with that. Go talk to them.
Definitely. Could being born in the presence of death affect an unborn baby? My mum was pregnant with me in her third term when my grandmother died from magpie.
Well, I mean, if you look at it in the fact that we're all connected, yes, because we're all a circle on that flower of life. Um, I'm sure you were pretty perceptive to it, if nothing else.
Mm.
You know, floating in all that fluid with your receptors out.
So I'm going to say that if we consider ourselves to be energetic beings which exist at many, many different points, then the passing of a blood relative is something that may well have been noted, but doesn't necessarily have a like a detrimental effect on you or anything like that, from my perspective, because you can connect to that energy of that ancestor at different points along the ecosystem.
Well, that's see, I'm still sticking on this. Okay, so that again is like thinking that the effect of death is detrimental.
Negative, yeah.
And it's not. It's a lesson, and it is it's something to learn from. No, it's not easy. Yes, mourning can suck, but mourning can also remind you of the joy that you found. It can remind you of memories that you haven't thought of in forever. So that's, again, I'm over here like, I don't know, because I don't know that death is something to be healed. I think, like you said, the trauma is what needs to be healed. And I don't know that you were put through the trauma directly. You know what I mean? It was an echo.
What, of losing?
Does that make sense?
Losing someone else.
As being the unborn baby. I mean, I'm sure you felt your mother going through it, and maybe you are used to that heavy undertow of it.
There may be like a
so that could have affected
it. There may have been a biological response in your mother that can have been passed along to you at some point. I mean, that's,
again, this is all theorizing anyway.
Yeah. But for me, like, death is more like a transition state. It's not a negative thing, which is why, like, it's not like a finite thing either, which is what I was trying to point with the, with the ecosystem, like that it's not that she had then gone and that you couldn't connect to her energy at any point. Both of my blood grandmothers died before I was born, and I have always felt there was this gap, and I mourn never knowing them. That's a little bit like what Cris said about her elders.
Magpie, you and I need to talk.
Because I'll be there.
I have had that exact situation. It was my great grandmother, but she was essentially the town healer. She had a lot of knowledge and a lot of spunk, and I only got to know her through stories, what little there was. And I thought that I would never know her, and I mourned that. And then one day, at a sacred fire, she put her hand on my shoulder. And I realized that I was very wrong, and that you can still know her. So, she may have died before you were born, because my grandmother did as well. But the gap is not as wide as you think. Sweet Susie, do you think meditation could help bring ancestors forward in the case of being adopted or a parent that was adopted to heal the adoption wound? Yeah, I think meditation helps a lot of stuff, honestly.
you should reiterate the story about the two tribes with the adoption stuff, because that's something that Cris talks about.
Yeah, so one of the main questions I get when it comes to ancestors on my channel is, well, I was adopted, so what does that mean for me? And honestly, in my experience reading for people and all that, what I find is that you get double the pleasure, double the tribe. basically. So you have your biological, and then you also have those whose family you were adopted into. Because when you were adopted in, you became theirs, essentially. Like you became a descendant of their line. And so you have double the people. Instead of having two parents, you have four, essentially. And like all of their people. So like when someone's posse is rolling deep, I'm just kind of like, you're adopted, aren't you?
And it's nice as well, I think, in terms of if you have that wound with adoption, like feeling not wanted, then that ancestor work, when you're like, yeah, but the ancestors from both sides will come forward because your tribe.
Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like your let's say like your parents with that didn't want you, right? Like they just like outright were dicks, let's just say. I don't know if they were, I'm just saying. So let's say that does not mean that your dead grandmother, who was one of their mothers, does not want you. That does not mean that she doesn't call you that. One family member doesn't affect the other. They don't speak for the all of them. And so that's another thing I find that people assume is like, oh well, I was rejected by my family. Like I feel like Joey, you even kind of did this to an extent. It's like, you know, I don't get along with my family, or I have bad blood with my living, so that means that the ones that aren't living aren't going to like me either. And that's not the case.
I was going to say, yeah, because I was rejected in effectively by my parents. My parents were both abusive. They were not parents as they should have been. And that for me was a place of wound, a place of deep wounding, and is still a place of wound that I'm still working through. And that got in the way. Like, I was fortunate to know that my mother's mother was an amazing woman. And I knew her before she passed. And she was a lot like me, and like my love of history and things has come from her, and she's still around. Like I will smell a very particular scent that I know is her, or I will come home and my house will smell like her house when she was cooking. And I will know from one of those two sort of major indicators that she's around. And I promised her after her death that I would take care of my middle sister, because there was this feeling, and I knew, and my grandmother knew, being all connected in, that me and my middle sister would be fending for ourselves, and we wouldn't have family after she had passed. And she is still very close to this day. And I promised her, I was like, I will take care of my middle sister. I promise. I promise you, I will take care of her. I will be family. I will be tribe. And so fortunately, I have that in place that I can use as a bridge to go back into ancestry work. But even with that in place, it's still very difficult for me, like, given that my parents have basically treated me like a burden from word go, and I have no family to fall back on, to then go into a spirit place where there are family that want me to fall back on them and have a two-way relationship. So there is that within my life, even though it's not an adoption story, it's the same kind of feeling of they didn't want you, and or whatever. And unfortunately mine goes beyond that point of it wasn't just separation, there is abuse of all kinds in the way there, and that can get in the way of connecting with the ancestors further back. But it's not okay. It's not their fault, and they're there with open arms waiting. And
not only that, but I feel like on the other side, you're given a sort of full scope of, your life, or maybe your lives, plural. And a lot of the lessons that you need to learn, right? I feel like it's like, all right, right then, it's time to take a tally of all the things and see how we're doing. Okay, you know, and then like, all right, well, I haven't learned this one. Let's head back out. And it's like being in Dragon Age and you guys are at the war table.
Oh, Cullen, yes. Cullen, right there.
Metaphor.
I'm Dorian, for anyone who's interested. Dorian's there as well.
Dorian. Crap, I was gonna say my hoodie's in here, I think, but it's not. It's in the dining room. Anyway, what was I gonna say now? I've gotten completely sidetracked because
you were at the war table. Sending out on messages.
So it's like being at the war table. And kind of taking a tally of what needs done and all that. And so I think that we're given that full scope, and because of that, on that side we're a lot more open to communication, and we're a lot more aware in a lot of ways of our mistakes, the wounds that we have and may have caused in return. Because you have to think, okay, so like, let's say a parent is abusive. A lot of times it's because they were raised by a parent that was also abusive in some way. You know, like there's patterns that come down the line, and then certain people make them better or worse. And like what you do with that is your life. You know, you make choices. But I think on the other side, they are able to see that, and those who are willing to look at it, because I do feel like there's some that kind of get stuck in a loop, but those who are willing to look at it are more than willing to try and heal the line. They want to work on things. They want to achieve balance, I guess you could say.
Well, plus they're more acutely aware of the fact that they're not disconnected as easy as it is to think we're disconnected in this lifetime. Yeah.
So they're like, no, you're a piece of me, and I'm a piece of you. And so I know that a piece of you there, meaning here on Earth, has hurt you. But I also want you to know that there is more to us, and therefore there is more to you.
We should be careful about learned behavior, though, because it is completely and utterly possible to completely and utterly reject the negative lessons in which we've been taught.
Yeah.
So there is a choice involved as well. I will, because I understand how difficult it can be for survivors in this instance. To be told, like, well, nearly all survivors go on to be abusers, and the thought of me ever hurting another person horrifies me to my core. So
that's what I said about, we make our choices, and that's what I mean, because you can be raised a certain way, and at a certain point, like, you make your own decisions. You can choose what you want to do with all the shit that you've been given. You can make a shit castle and go live in it, or you can or you can put it in the garden and you can use it for fertilizer, and you can grow flowers. It's up to you what the fuck you do with it.
Oh my god! You can build a shit castle or use it as fertilizer.
I am the metaphor queen.
That might be my new favorite thing ever. You can either build a shit castle or fertilize a garden. Oh my god, I love it. I mean, I've talked about your own garden and growth before, but shit castle has not come into it in previous discussion. So in terms of healing, that's an important point, I think, because there definitely is, to my mind, family. Now I've just got family shit castles that need to be addressed. There is like inherent.
Jennifer Halston is like, I want that stitched on a pillow.
Get on that. Get on selling that, Cris.
You could make a shit castle, or you could use it as manure to grow flowers. The choice is yours.
Shit castle or garden, go. Yeah. Houses and farming, it's all connected. We've come full circle, the circle of flux.
Mission achieved.
But I absolutely believe there is things that get carried on through bloodlines that need to be addressed and healed. And this is kind of something that I have done. Like, I have gone back and tried to help and heal my ancestors. So I think there absolutely is energies that need to be addressed, to be recovered, to be healed within bloodlines. I'll put that on my t-shirt.
Well, and even further than that, like within bloodlines, within societies, within ecosystems, within all of it, there are things that need to be healed. If we are the caretakers of ourselves and the world, we are not doing a very good job.
No,
unfortunately.
I mean, we have to be careful, because you are not completely and utterly responsible for the actions of your ancestors.
No.
So, for example, if one of your ancestors was a slaver, and you find that out, and that horrifies you, and you've always been against racist ideology and things like that, that doesn't automatically make you a racist bad person because one of your ancestors was a slaver. And I think it's important to distinguish who you are in the now.
Did you build the shit castle, or did you make a garden? Just because your ancestor built a shit castle doesn't mean that you have to. As a matter of fact, I think in some ways it might even mean that, like, we've already been there and done that, so we don't really need to do that again.
That mistake's been made. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, happy birthday, Moonstone Dreamer.
Happy birthday. Would you like me to sing like I sang for Molly?
We can sing by you.
It was an absolute. I did a terrible, weird little.
No, oh my god. So I was moderating that, and I came in a little bit late because I was in a session with a client, and so I totally missed it. And when I played it back, I lost it. I was laughing so hard I was crying. And I'm like, no, she's gonna keep singing. She's going all the way through with this. Yeah. I loved it. She likes your lipstick.
Well, thank you. And happy birthday to you. That is in my family. My family is in North Carolina. As in, there is ancestry of slavers in your family.
Yeah.
There probably is in a lot of English people's lifetime, particularly because, like, there were slavers in Brighton, Liverpool.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at slavery. That is not what's happening, people.
What?
I'm laughing at the chat because Samantha just said, "Oh my God, the New York's next bestseller: How to Build a Garden from a Shit Castle."
Me and you can co-write it.
Maybe that needs to be a thing.
But yes, in terms of history, in like Brighton and Liverpool, they were big slave trader ports in England. So I imagine in the here and in America, there are probably a lot of families with it interconnected to it. And it again comes about to choice.
And some of them have ancestors that were the slaves, and some of them have ancestors that were the owners, and some of them have ancestors, most of them have ancestors that were both.
So it's just something to be aware of, that whilst wounds can transcend, it doesn't like automatically make you anything. Your choices count. So
yes,
I think when we talk about ancestor healing, there's a risk of being like, well, like you're stuck into this holding pattern of who your ancestors were, and that's not the case.
Bear this burden. You don't have a choice. Yeah. But you do.
You do. There's always a choice. Always. Are there any more questions? Or shall I
Questions. Get them while they're hot.
The bookshelf apothecary behind Cris.
Actually, I am going to do a live thing. Maybe I'll do that. What do I have tomorrow? Oh, tomorrow or Friday, I tell you guys what, I will do a live video, and you guys can ask me about whatever is in this background. Tell me what you want. Friday or Thursday, put it in the chat and I'll see. But yeah, I'll do that and you can ask me about whatever, because I've had a lot of people talking about the background.
When is the next chat with me and you? Because they love it.
Oh my gosh, when is that? Well, what do you want us to talk about? Because that's usually what happens. That's the only reason these take a while, is because we're like,
we can do this every fucking week, because basically this is what we do in private, only we press the record button.
This is us bullshitting with each other the whole time. Yeah, this is what our mornings are like. Well, her evenings.
We can do this
Thursday. Oh, one Friday. Sorry, yes, you can do this what?
We can do this every week. For my sake, we can. Cris would be like, no, sort of. But you know.
No, man, I'm down to do that. I like talking with you and your friends. Hi, friends.
I like talking with you too. Just before I found a psychic told me to look into my ancestors and that she saw African energy.
I had no idea what she meant at that time. Well, yeah, that would be what she meant, probably.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Both need weekly fluxy chat.
Oh my God! Welcome to the Flux. We should start our own podcast, Joey.
We should.
A Flux podcast. I would totally be down for that. Like, I was half joking, but now I'm like, no, that would actually be really cool.
Yeah, we should. We should do that. Everybody put pressure on Cris right now. Everybody, 1, 2, 3. Let's do that, Cris. Come on, Cris, we want to do that, Cris. Have you ever read or heard of books by Dolores Cannon on life after death and past life regression? I don't think so. I'm not very good with names, though, because my memory is literally fluxy.
Dolores Cannon. Well, I'm pretty sure you mentioned that yesterday. And if it wasn't you, someone else did. I have not looked that up yet. I will look for her books, because chances are, see, here's the thing, guys. One of the reasons I don't recommend a lot of books is because I forget names really easily.
Oh, good. It's not just me.
I know the covers, though. Mm-hmm. So, like, for instance, I'll be like, no, I've never heard of that Sandra Ingerman book. And then, like, I'll see the cover and I'm like, oh, shit, no, that book was in my house for a really long time. And I've read it several times because my mom used to talk about it with me and blah, 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 blah. Like,
yeah,
it's the visual of it that I remember.
Yeah.
So I'm horrible with that. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to say no, I haven't. But if I go and look up her books and I realize I have, don't kill me.
The entire chat is now like, Cris, do it, Cris, flux it, Cris, flux. We'll love more chats between you. Yeah, podcast, it needs to be a thing.
All right, guys, all right.
Dolores Cannon is the person who invented a methodology for past life regression through hypnosis. Welcome to the Flux.
Okay, yeah. Yep, that sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah, because my mom went through like a big hypnosis period.
Just in general, just with breakfast.
Like, no, like she was all about, like she was learning how to do it, and yeah. That sounds familiar when you put it like that, Michael. She passed life regression for 30 years. A lot of people she worked with came up with a lot of what you have been talking about. That's not surprising. Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things for me growing up, was that I was born, and everybody says I was an old soul. So I'm trying not to be cliche sounding here. So just know that I recognize how cliche this sounds.
Can I just stop you? Just,
yes.
I had this huge moment of deja vu just now. Like, I've been here before. We talked about privately with a tribe. It's like moments of deja vu.
Yeah.
I've just had one of those just right now. Like, I've been here before. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no. So when I was little, I knew that there was an old woman inside of me. And it sounds
kinky.
Really, also creepy when you think about it that way. But I knew I could look into mirrors and like essentially see her face overlaid over mine even. I have always been not quite fully involved with people my age. You know what I'm saying? Like friend-wise and stuff growing up. I was very much so like the person that they came to, because I was able to be like, oh, well, this is why they feel like that. This is why they feel like that. This is this. Like I could feel it already.
Snap. Yeah.
Right. And so it was like I recognized that web because I had seen it before. And I knew that I had a lot to share because of that web, but no one would take me seriously because I was this little kid. And so like when I turned 30, I'm 33 now. When I turned 30, I was like, oh, fucking finally, maybe somebody will listen to me now.
Nobody listens to me. Everyone looks at me.
But it's still, everybody's like, what are you, 20? No.
20? I go down the shops and they're like, we want ID for the lottery, please. I'm like, I'm older than 17. Thank you very much.
I'm going to need your ID for that podcast I'm going to do with you. I don't know if I can trust it.
But yeah, I was exactly the same way. Exactly the same way.
But it's difficult. It's very frustrating to grow up. Being able to like see into other things like that. And
for more about that, check out our podcast on Feeling Other.
Right? Feeling Other. That's an awesome one. That was probably one of my favorites that we've done so far.
Behold the power of flux.
Same, Chris. It's even written on my school report when I was little. Emma does not relate to her peers, right?
I think on mine it was like is quiet but a really deep thinker is something that the teachers used to put on like all of my stuff. Like
I was funny story. Okay, so they actually tried to put me on medicine because they thought I was having seizures, like the ones where you just daze out. And it wasn't that. It's because I was bored because we were covering shit that we had already covered and I remembered it. And if you had tested me right then, I'd have gotten the test. So why are we wasting my time right now? And so I would just daze out. I would daydream, or I would do the thing where like you put glue on the paper and then you like shave your crayons into it and like make designs, and then you give it to all your friends. Like, I made you a bird. I made you a crayon heart. And then like you go to actually use your crayons to color, they're like broken up and like. But I would like do arts and crafts. I'd start doing arts and crafts in the middle of the class when they was trying to teach me about history or something. And it's like, well, you know, they would ask me a question like, well, what about this? And I'm just like, well, it's this answer. Can I go back to doing this now? Are you done?
I was worse than that.
And they didn't like that.
They didn't
like that.
I would, because of how intelligent I was and because I was a lot like you in a lot of ways, if they tried to teach me in a certain way and I knew that I wouldn't learn that way, I'd be like, no. And I remember, this is a little bit later. This is more like AS level. But the history teacher was like, right, we're gonna learn this thing because of in a graph form. And I was like, no. And they went, what do you mean no? And I was like, if you try and teach me this as a graph, because it's mathematics and that's not how my brain works, I won't process it. And because of who I was at this point, and he let me get away with it, and I went to the library by myself and did the studying my way. And he was determined that his way was right. So at the end of that subject, he did a test, and the only person who passed the test was me. And then everybody else had to relearn it the way that I'd done it. And I was sat there like, now what do I do? Because I've got like a month's worth of work that I've done, and everyone else has to catch up. So
yeah.
Emma must learn to do things the right way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. No, I feel you, Magpie. I get it. I was sent to the principal's office a lot because, not because I was being sassy, because I actually wasn't, but because
Are you sure you weren't?
I'm pretty sure, because I know when I'm trying to be sassy. And I remember one in particular. We were learning about Christopher Columbus.
Uh-oh.
These were the days of Cris is going to powwows and dancing all the time. And we are researching our genealogy and getting into things and just really getting into like earth-based spirituality and how like white men has screwed over the natives, right? All that stuff. And so they bring up Christopher Columbus, and my teacher, who already isn't very fond of me, says, you know, who discovered America? And I was like, no one. And he's like, what? And I'm like, it wasn't lost to begin with. And he's like, no, someone discovered America. And I'm like, the native people that were already there? Because
yeah,
and
yeah.
And he's like, no, read your textbook. And I'm like, yeah, I read it. It's a lie.
See, I'm going to point this out.
Not being like, screw you, but just like, no, yeah, it's a lie. It's not true. Textbooks are written by the winners. Of course you would say that.
Cultural differences 101 here, because in England, that response gets you top marks. In America,
really?
that gets you sent to the principal's office.
Damn it. I'm too English for my own good. I took a DNA test. I am quite British, apparently. That's what needs to happen.
Mary asked, although it's slightly off topic, I keep zapping electronics lately. Do you have any tips to help with this?
There are stones that help absorb that energy. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Also,
Hematite?
Ground yourself more. Yeah, ground yourself more.
Yeah, I was going to say grounding. Hematite's a good crystal for grounding. Or if you don't like hematite, tourmaline, like a black tourmaline would be a good one.
Diodes. You can find diodes, I believe they're called, that are specifically for like setting around your electronics and stuff that help.
In terms of, I just had the thought like dirt, like go get your fingers in some dirt, in some earth.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite, like my number one ways. Because, okay, so you guys might not know, but like I am essentially, I mean, we're all a conduit, but like I take pain. You can ask Joey.
Yep.
It's a specialty. I work with hell, and hell's really all about that. So like I can see other people's pain, and I can feel it, and I can speak it, and I can take it into myself. And the way that I get rid of all that crap is I go out barefoot into the dirt, not the grass, the mud, the dirt. And I sink my feet in, and I sink my hands in the dirt, and I give it back. And that is like my number one, like I feel amazing after that. I'm like, let's do everything in the world. I have time.
Just a side note though, we're very earth centric in our makeup. So if you're more of like a water person, you might be better off with a salt water, hands in salt water, or full on submerge yourself in a bath or something. Depending on where you're at.
He's happy Native American arrival of cholera, typhus, and smallpox day. Yep. I'm always like, happy mass genocide day.
Oh dear.
Every Thanksgiving I get on a soapbox. It's a whole thing.
She's doing this on my channel. I'm going to get all my comments about this.
Reddit. No.
Yeah. So those are some tips about grounding. I'm not a rose quartz fan. I will put my neck on the block. I'm not I love moonstone. Not a rose quartz fan. Not really. It's okay, but it's
rose quartz is really good for baths. That's probably the number one that I use it in is healing baths.
I can see it as a healing stone. I can appreciate it that way, especially for like heart-centered healing.
Mm-hmm. What I like to do is I have one. Actually, I'm gonna run and get it. Hold up. Just keep talking. I'll be right
Hold up. Well, I can show some crystals too. But then these are the crystals that I have on hand. So I showed the chat that I have fire agate. So that's a really nice cleansing and cleansing one. What if you're fire? Not putting your feet in the fire? No. Well, you can have a candle and you can just siphon off. You can sit in front of a fire and you can siphon off or project into, depending on how projective or receptive you are. So Cris was saying she can empathically take. Well, I'm kind of the opposite. I can empathically push. So depending on whether you are more of an empath in terms of a puller or a pusher, that sounds all kinds of crazy. Cris is going to be sad she missed that. You can like use the energies of the fire. Maybe I should try it on the sunburn I got yesterday. Aloe vera. Aloe vera is the one to try on sunburn. Crystal showcase, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, if you're fire, then and another thing that you can do is after you've burnt fire, you can use ash. You can use the wooden ash and put your fingers in that. Well, it's cool, obviously, but you can use ashes and things from the fire, like instead of earth and dirt, and you can ground off into ash. Crystal like that as well. When she gets back, we'll tell her all about it. Cris, I can hear her. Cris. We had an idea.
Oh, no, that's why.
This is all very confusing. I'm trying to tell you about this amazing idea we had, me in the chat.
What's happening? What's happening? What's the amazing idea?
So I was asked, what if you're fire? And I was talking about projecting or receiving energy from flames.
You burn it to the ground.
But then we thought, But then I thought using the ashes like you would use the dirt. So once all the ashes are cooled down, you can then use ashes in place of dirt. I thought that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
You could also invite the powers of fire.
So this is my rose quartz.
Oh, wow. Okay. No half
and it's
measures.
Actually shaped
like a heart.
Like an anatomical heart. And he kind of settles. He just kind of simmers right into boobs. And welcome to Chats with Joey and Cris.
How does it end up being boobs and balls every single time?
So what I like to do in baths is I like to set this one here. And then I like to find, where is he? This one. Who is actually like a raw, rough shape of one. Okay, and then it's got a peak on the other side. And I set this between my feet, so it completes a circle of healing. And I will set in that. And that, like, I didn't appreciate rose quartz until I did that. And then I was like, oh my God, you're amazing. Oh.
Welcome to live chat with Joe and Cris. Oh my God, you're amazing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, but this, the reason I laughed when I sat down is because I was looking all through the house because I thought he was in the other room. And he was actually sitting on my great-grandmother's cauldron right beside me. And I heard, look over, Just sit down and look over. And he's right there the whole time.
So for air sign, you can still work with air.
Yes.
Like I love working with moving air.
Oh.
So if you have a fan on, you can work with moving air. You can work with incense and moving air. So
also, so water and air. One of my favorite things when I was going through, everybody's laughing. Yeah. One of my favorite things when I was going through grieving, like hardcore, is when it would rain. I would go out, or when it was windy, I would go out in my backyard. I'm sure my neighbors think that I am insane. And I would like give it away. Like I would let the rain just wash it, and I would let the wind, like I would shout into the wind so it could just take the words away. And like let it wash over me and take the energy with it. And those were some of the best moments in all that.
I did that today. It was raining outside and windy, and I just went and gave it up to the wind and the rain today. I mean, it's not heavy morning, but it was a cleansing. I will say to Moonstone, I'm an earth sign, but I connect more with water. It's worth checking out your chart because my entire life I've always connected more with fire. I prefer fire magic. I like earth, but I prefer fire magic. And I went and checked my chart, and I am literally a flaming volcano.
Yeah.
Like I am earth and fire, but there's more fire in my chart than there is earth. But
and like, for instance, and she all three of her main signs are earth, so she was like really confused. For me, I have an earth sign because I'm a Capricorn, but then my moon is water, so the moon is in Cancer, which is its like ruling sign. So it's like a very strong point. And then I have a Leo, which is fire, in my rising, which is why I'm so demonstrative. Someone commented about the gesturing. Also, I married an Italian. But so I have like a mixture of things, but I always connected more to water as well. Like earth and water were my main two. And I didn't realize until I started learning my other signs that that's where a lot of that came from. So look up your natal chart. If you type in free natal chart on Google, you will go to astro.com and they'll do it for free and tell you about all of it.
It's interesting that because I'm Virgo with Virgo rising and Taurus moon. So on the surface of it, I should be Earth Mama up the wazoo. But when you get into the rest of it, there's so much Leo in my chart. There is so much Leo in my chart, like crazy amounts of Leo in my chart. I have one air, I think, and a couple of water, and then the rest of them are like Leo. So it's like, So, yes, Magpie has all the Scorpio.
Yes, all the Scorpios. So yeah, it's worth looking up. Also, I would venture to say that if there is an element that is not represented well, like for me, I have air that is not represented very well. I only have a few.
Well, I've only got
signs
one.
in air. Everything else is heavily in the other three. And I would say that push yourself to work with air more in that situation, or whatever that missing element is, essentially. If you look up Deborah Silverman, she talks about the missing element and things that can help you balance that out. Which, look her up anyway, because she is a hilarious astrologer. She's very like matter of fact. She doesn't throw all this stuff on you where you're like, what transit, huh? Very, very cool. Look her up because she's on YouTube and she does like every few days what the planets are doing.
It's interesting though, because I've never felt like I've been disconnected from air, because a lot of the Virgo feels like there's a lot of air in the Virgo anyway. Like they're of the mind, which is realm of air. So
yeah, I was seeing if I still had the chart that I did for all you guys. I was gonna see like where your elements were. Confused. It says my moon is Leo. I think that's what it said.
Maybe I should connect more with fire, but I
But see, that's assuming that your moon is the only one that defines that. There are a lot of planets.
Well, in terms of fire, you don't have to work with fire. Like the crystal I was just showing you is literally fire agate. Hang on, because Chris missed it. So this is literally fire agate, and you can get like volcanic crystals as well. You can get like obsidian is readily available, and it's basically a volcano.
It's shaped like a little key.
It's a it looks like a crow head to me.
Oh yeah.
That's why I got it.
Oh yeah, a lot more when you turn it that way.
So you can get crystals to work with fire if you can't have like things burning in your home.
Yes.
You can get scents that smell like.
You can work with the herbs that are spicy, that are fiery.
You can cook with it. If you like if you like hot foods of any description, like bake some ginger cookies or make curry or work with it that way.
I think I'm going to do a video soon that talks about building your own, what I like to call spiritual Rolodex, which is where you figure out what stuff means to you. It's really helpful in dream interpretation for one. It's helpful in spell work. It's helpful with like divination in terms of your life and different animals and such that show up.
Is it worth us doing a video next week for our live chat video about astrology and our take on astrology? Because a lot of people are interested to know what we think about it. I mean, we're not like...
Yeah, like neither one of us are an astrologist, if that's what you're looking for.
But I mean, I can happily talk about like elemental correspondences and charts and things.
I can talk about
curry. I know. Moonstone, curry. Oh my god, I love curry. Chris has never had curry. Everybody,
I want to have curry.
Chris needs to get her ass to England, and I will make her some damn curry.
I want to get to England. They have a town there that is my namesake, and I need to visit it. And then there's like all these cool people that live there too, and that's a thing. And so
I'm just going to answer that question. So not related, but I'm reading the Celtic lore and there are plants that I can't find locally. Can I use different ones? Yes. Oh, death in astrology. That could be something. Anyway, yes.
That's an interesting smorgasbord.
Astrology.
We could talk about the North Node and the South Node and how they affect our past lives and the life that we're living now and the lesson that needs to be learned. I could do that.
That's next week's live chat. Done. She's
okay.
Well done, chat. We have sealed Chris down into an idea. That's it. Yes, you can use alternative herbs and plants. So this is what I'm going to say to you about correspondences in general, especially when you're looking at books. Is trust your instincts and don't worry too much about what the book tells you must do, because spirituality is your individual path walking, and in terms of like this life that you're living. We've talked a little bit about it being like blips in time, but for this is your experience, for this is your perception, for this is your way of walking and talking and feeling in the world. So if you live in a place and you feel connected to the place that you're living in, and the plants around you speak to you far more than the plants in the book, then connect to where you are, where you're living and what you're feeling, and don't worry, because literally the person who wrote the book is still a person. Just because they put it in print.
Yeah. Also, worth noting, since we're talking about herbs and plants and such, if you are a person that can't grow shit, you just make shit castles instead, right? If you are a person that can't grow herbs, but you work really well with dry herbs, like that's a thing that can happen. I am one of those people.
Well,
I'm not good with living plants. My mom has that, but I'm really good with the dry ones. I'm really good with the dead ones.
Well, I'm really some of my favorite herbs to work with are the banefuls or the poisons, and I can't grow them, and I'm renting, so I definitely can't grow them right now. So
yeah,
all about them plants, That's like I said,
all about the plant spirits.
So next week's live episode is that Cris is now chained to is death, astrology, and past lives.
Yes.
So save up your questions for that. Have a think. I have trouble remembering my dreams when I wake up. Do you have any tips to remembering your dreams? I don't have tips because I remember my dreams so vividly. It's never been a problem. I mean, journaling by your bed is the only thing that I can think to offer.
Yeah, well, you can keep a journal, or for a while I kept like a note thing on my phone. So, and most people think like they have to write like a whole thing. I'm talking keywords like man, blue car, depressed. You know what I mean? Like
depressed blue car.
Feeling.
Okay.
Because all you need is like a little thing to jog your memory, and then you'll start getting into the rest of it.
Also, I did say and suggest this somewhere else. Someone asked about lucid dreaming. So if you kind of try and get yourself in the zone before you go to bed, like you like
yes,
meditate and get yourself into the zone where you're like, I want to be receptive to messages, and like,
and it doesn't even have to be like a full-on meditation either.
No.
Like center yourself before you go to bed and go mantras with myself. I will remember my dreams in the morning. I will remember my dreams in the morning. I am going to remember my dreams in the morning, and like set that intention, and that helps too.
Mary, did you see what Mary said? That's fascinating.
No, what'd she say? Where?
Since you guys are talking about astrology, yesterday, today, and tomorrow are a major gateway, similar to what happened in 2012. It's a time to correct anything you should have done last time.
Yeah. Are you talking about the stuff that's happening with like Saturn and Uranus and all this kind of stuff? Like there's some, and I think Mercury too. There's some like weird stuff happening in the heavens right now. Dawn was telling me about that.
Basically, this energy for these few days can help you move forward for the next 5 years. Look up Leo King. He explains it better than I do.
Basically, these energies for the next few days.
Are there any final questions? Because I'm about time, and I.
Oh yeah. We need to go soon.
I need to go soon.
But we've got so guys. So Thursday, so tomorrow. I will be doing a live chat on my channel where you guys can ask me what the hell's going on back here.
I will be in chat making dirty comments.
She will, and she's the moderator. So if you make dirty comments that are over the line, she'll remove you. No.
Thank you.
Oh dear. Now we've encouraged them. Yeah, so I'll do that. And then so we've got podcast fluxing, and then death and astrology, and
we
the
will
gateway moving forward.
We will death and astrology next week because we've basically tied Cris down and said you will do it now.
Oh, question, Cris, about what time? So I am Eastern Standard Time. So probably. I'm trying to think of what I have tomorrow.
Do you work tomorrow?
So I do it at like 11, probably. No, we'll do it at 10. Screw it. So the same time this started, whatever time that was for you.
It was 3 p.m.
We've been going 2 hours now.
It was 3 p.m. British summertime. It's 10 your time?
10 a.m., yes.
10 a.m. your time.
So 10 a.m. tomorrow, Eastern Standard.
Joe, you mentioned whips and corsets a lot. It's because I'm kinky.
I mean, I like corsets. They're cool.
I don't think I've mentioned whips this episode.
Melinda, I'll do the math. We all will. Yeah, like I would love to, but I know time zones. You can ask. I think Debbie's still in here. We had a time trying to figure out the time zone with her.
Sacrifice to the old gods is the only way of sorting out time zones. I'm telling you, it's like, On my channel, coming up on Friday, we're going to be interviewing Laura Daligan. Oh my god! So I'm super excited about that.
I'm excited. And I'm probably going to be in chat for that, guys, because
she's my moderator.
Yeah, I'm going to be around.
So okay. So we will definitely do that next week then. We will pick a day and we'll let you guys know about death and astrology, death and stars, stars and death.
Dun, dun, dun. The light in the darkness.
So yeah, we'll definitely do some more of these. I'm glad you guys enjoy them. I really enjoy it. I love Cris.
Yeah,
I love Chris's face. You really love yourself too.
I love me too. I also love you guys. And I love Joey. I also love giant rose quartz in my boobs.
It's descended. That's how yeah. Boobs and whips and balls and
just chilling like a villain.
She's just chilling with a rose quartz in her tits. Aren't you glad you joined in? And for the best bits or something, I don't know. Right. Right. So I think that's everything. Do you need to plug anything before we do? Do you want to plug your Ancestry course?
Oh yeah, cool. Oh sure. So I have an Ancestry course. It's called Ancestral Work 101. And it is like a 9,000 word PDF, all on this sort of topic. And there are crafts in it, and there is an incense blend formula, and there is also a meditation, which Joey has done herself, to journey to see your ancestors, to meet them and talk to them. And you can find that on my website at Cris, C-R-I-S, ashburn.com. And I also do intuitive spiritual mentoring, which is like my favorite thing to do. And then I am also a tarot reader, and I'm a death midwife. So, but you can find out more about me on that channel. I'm also on YouTube and Facebook and various other things. I think Joey put the links down.
I did. I basically copied and pasted what you did yesterday and just stuck that beneath there. So all the same links are there. I have undergone Chris's dirty little meditations. No, I definitely recommend that you guys go check out her Ancestry course. The meditation itself was pivotal to the breaking down of walls between me and my ancestors and helping me to work with them. I am going to write Cris a, what you may call it, that's the one. I will do that, and that will be so you guys can hear a little bit more about my experiences with that. If you are interested in physical items, then I'm your lady. Come to the physical store, starryeyesupplies.co.uk. Took me a minute to remember my own store. It's fine. And
it'll be all right. It's been a long chat.
And you can buy Otherworld smudges right now, which is something which has been tailor-made for this very subject. And there is something coming out tomorrow along with a video, which is going to be called Wombs of Our Mothers.
Yes. I'm so excited about this one, you guys. You have no idea. I'm like, I saw your Instagram of the salt. Oh my gosh, dude. It's like fairy dirt. Like it's amazing.
Dark green, naturally dyed salts, no artificial colors, all done naturally. And I was super chuffed with myself because, you know, whatever.
It's gorgeous, you guys. You gotta go check that out.
So tomorrow the video will be going up, which will talk about the products, but it's mainly going to be about something around the same sort of topic as we've been talking about today, which is wombs of our mothers, which is ancestral healing, in particular reference to feminine mother-based healing. So that will be a video and a product on the channel and the store tomorrow. So you guys can check that out tomorrow. And tomorrow, Cris is going to be looking at her bookcase.
Yeah.
So you guys can check that out tomorrow.
In general.
Okay, so I think that's what we've both got coming up. There's anything else you want to mention that you got coming up? Or are you good?
I guess I could allude to the fact that there is a project in the works.
Oh, dirty.
A super secret fun project. And I may have hinted to it on my Instagram recently in a picture if you want to go try and find the Where's Waldo Wally in that one and see what it is.
I know what it is.
Super pumped for it, though.
I'm super pumped because I know what it is, and it's amazing. Yeah. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for coming and chatting with us. I love doing these googly hangouts. They always end up being 2 hours. I get so into them, and they end up being 2 hours long, and people are like, what do you talk about?
Yeah, when I surface from them, I'm like, this is life without headphones. Hi. Everything is so loud.
So yeah, Magpie knows what it is.
Magpie knows.
So thank you for joining us, everybody. Thank you for your questions. Chat has been off the chart today. Thank you so much. There have been some fantastic questions, so thank you for joining us. We will be back next week because we've now basically honey trapped Cris into it.
I accept that. I like honey.
So thank you for everybody, and we will catch you on the next one, and I'll see you on my channel, or I'll see you in the live chat tomorrow on Chris's channel.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Bye, guys.